You know, the civil disturbance mission came together pretty quickly.
Brigadier General Mark Maldonado took us behind the scenes of the National Guard's controversial deployment in Washington. This giant armory 2 miles from the Capitol building was the staging ground for 5,100 Guard members sent from 11 states and D.C. They were among federal forces dispatched by the Trump administration to stop violence and looting during demonstrations against police brutality and racial injustice. Here, Guard troops got briefed on how to talk to protesters. Before heading out, they picked up assignments, riot gear, and initially, weapons.
Some folks were armed, but no weapons were fired.
National Guard members were at Lafayette Square across the street from the White House Monday, June 1st. That's when the world saw peaceful demonstrators forced back just before President Trump walked across the park to raise a Bible at St. John's Church, damaged by arson. Can you walk us through what the National Guard's role was in pushing protesters out of Lafayette Square?
I don't know about pushing protesters out of Lafayette Square. I've seen some of the footage, and some of the media's got it right, some of the media got it wrong.
It looked like they were pushed.
Yeah, so our job was simply there to provide a presence.
He said the Guard was not on the front lines that moved against protesters. That's backed up by a Washington Post reconstruction of the clash that put the Guard behind Park Police in the front.
Our job was not there to push our neighbors. Our job was there to help so that folks who were doing peaceful protests can continue to do that.
Were you aware that there was going to be that push to extend the perimeter at that time?
I can't talk to that. I'm not sure about that.
The National Guard patrolled city streets and protected federal property around the White House at a cost of $531 per person each day. That covered pay, travel, and accommodations. In the end, the deployment cost at least $21 million, according to the Guard, a figure that does not include aircraft used in the mission. Multiple states and the Guard told us the federal government and ultimately the American taxpayer will cover all expenses.
The whole thing was a show by the president.
Maryland Senator and Democrat Chris Van Hollen told us the Guard presence was a waste of money that inflamed tensions. The D.C. National Guard is investigating whether a helicopter was used inappropriately to disperse a crowd by hovering over protesters. Van Hollen says the Defense Department should have listened to the mayor who said local police could and should have handled the unrest.
You had his Secretary of Defense talking about the battle space. I mean, this was ridiculous, the battle space against peaceful protesters in the District of Columbia.
Maldonado says the National Guard operation was necessary and peaceful. Videos posted by the D.C. National Guard on Facebook show troops smiling with protesters, some of them extending an elbow to bump.
Many of us here feel the same thing, and folks out there who are protesting are feeling too. So our job is to ensure that we protect people, that we protect property, and we allow for folks to keep doing those things. That ensures our democracy and our way of life.
With cleanup underway and smaller but persistent protests in the city now, Guard members from out of state have gone home. Patrick Terpstra, Newsy, Washington.